Brasil, uma das maiores potências agrícolas do mundo, com força para avançar ainda mais. Com inovação, pesquisas e novas tecnologias, o país oferece oportunidades em áreas como digitalização do campo, melhoria do uso de insumos e muito mais. O agricultor brasileiro é grande usuário de recursos digitais na sua produção, utilizando essas ferramentas até mais que norte-americanos e europeus. Pode-se dizer que a tecnologia é, praticamente, sinônimo de sustentabilidade. Com as novas tecnologias, o agro será decisivo na mitigação dos efeitos das mudanças climáticas e na preservação da biodiversidade do planeta. Sem contar as inúmeras oportunidades em áreas como produção de biomassa, biomateriais e química verde. A tecnologia no campo veio para ficar e ainda tem espaço para crescimento.
Fórum de Investimentos Brasil 2022. Agronegócio. O Brasil na vanguarda da tecnologia agrícola.
Third largest supplier of agricultural goods in the world behind only the United States and the European Union, Brazil is in fact an agro-industrial powerhouse. On average, 1 out of every 4 agricultural products bought in the world is produced in Brazil. And with the new agricultural technologies, the country has the potential to produce even more. In this panel, the Investment Forum Brazil 2022 will show how the digitalization of the field, the improvement in the use of inputs, the expanded use of sensors, and the creation of better production techniques generate a wide space of opportunities for new investments. Participate in the debate, and I invite to the stage Marcos Young, Coordinator of the Center INSPER Global Agro, INSPER. Celso Moretti, President of Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, Embrapa. Francisco Jardim, CEO at SP Ventures. João Campos, President at Seara Alimentos. Lorival Luz, CEO at BRF. So to moderate this discussion, Marcos Young. Good morning to all. It's a great pleasure to be with you at this forum. I've been in our last edition, and I believe that this is an extraordinary forum to talk about investment in the agribusiness. And we focus a lot in the commerce side. Commerce is very important for agribusiness in Brazil. We're the 3rd largest exporter in the world in agro, and we represent 25% of Brazilian GDP, and also 25% of employment, and 50% of Brazilian export is agribusiness. So commerce is essential, but also investments. Not only investments, foreign investments in Brazil, but also Brazilian investments abroad. And one of the most promising areas is technology, because we are the birth of one of the largest agricultural revolutions in the humanity, which is the occupation of the tropics, occupation of Brazilian savanna, starting in the 1970s, and transforming Brazil from exporters of the end of the link, cocoa, sugar, and to exporting the center of a food supply with soy, wheat, meat. And it's a great pleasure to have Celso Moretti here, the president of Embrapa. So it's a public company. They helped us in discovering the tropics, and Celso is here to tell us what's the future of Embrapa and how they will grow here and abroad. We also have Francisco from SP Ventures, maybe the main business investing in AG startups, the agribusiness startups, and he'll talk a bit of this related to agribusiness. And we have two presidents here in a sector where Brazil is a world champion, which is the animal protein. Thanks to this agricultural side, we're able to produce soy and milk, and we're able to have not only in soy and corn, and this is very important. So we have the president of BRF and Seara here, Lorival and João. So just to introduce very briefly, we are at this moment talking about environmental security here. So we're together with FAO's Food Index, and we've reached the highest point of it. So what we're putting here, along with the climate change, is how to produce more and generate more technology, of course with more resources. So I'd like to start with Celso Moretti and have a vision of what's going on with Embrapa. In your vision, how do you see the partnerships that Embrapa is building with private companies? We have three present here. With a new business model to be able to capitalize and be able to develop together with the private sector. Thank you, Marcos. It's a great pleasure to be here today at BIF. And with black tags, black belts. And we're connected with the Ministry of Agriculture. We have the pleasure to have participated and still participating in this initiative and become one of the powerhouses in the agribusiness, feeding most of the world while preserving its land. So I am completing 2 years in the company now. And even though Embrapa is a public company, we have a very important role here and paint Embrapa as with a private company look. So we approach and we build relationship with the private sector, and we have been doing this for quite some time, but now with a stronger focus, Embrapa has today governance and management process to reach the level required at B3 with very clear KPIs. And we left 2019 out of 6% of our project portfolio in partnership with the private sector to 26% in February this year. And our goal is to reach 40% by next year. So 40% of our projects will be conducted in partnership with the private sector. And why is that? Because our goal is to bring solutions to Brazilian agribusiness. And as said here in the opening with José Célio and Lorival, we have projects with all these players in the private sector and with Embrapa and the academic field. We have technology in the tropical area of the globe Today we have 2,100 PhDs, and our arena is not only Brazil, it's a tropical world. And we had a 22-day mission around the globe looking for fertilizers. We have the Admiral here who coordinated the Strategic Affairs Secretariat, and he also mentioned the food safety and fertilizers. This is, I don't like to use the word cliche, but it's a perfect storm cliche. If you see Russia invading Ukraine, and if we think about the energy crisis in China and United States, India, anyway, this gives us a huge challenge. And we have the technology to overcome this. We're working with the private sector in here. We're creating a new business model where today it is basically focused in licensing royalties. We're advancing in becoming partners in the private sector in Brazil and abroad. This is very nice from the Ministry of Science and Technology. They can isolate assets and create partnerships with specific purpose companies and have joint ventures around the world. So we have advanced discussions with the United Arabs, and we were in Morocco working with, discussing it with OCP. They have big reserve of phosphate, and in this sense, we're looking at the future and having Embrapa's mission on keep continuing this. And we have a very objective way to work with.
Very well. Thank you very much, Celso. This new phase of Embrapa is really welcome. The partnership with the private sector is fundamental. We understand that back there, the research was done by the public sector, starting with the agricultural universities and the institutes of research now and then Embrapa, but then we have to go along with the private sector because this is not a national sector, it's a global, more of the more globalized one in our economy. So I think I'll ask to Francisco, startups. We see a profusion of agtechs happening now with huge challenges, but the market is quite mean with the new companies, agri-techs. Many companies are feeling the uncertainties and the volatility due to the inflation and the interest rate and the low growth. How is the agri-techs of this moment of such uncertainty? And I will ask you, when is our Brazilian unicorn, Agro-Brazilian unicorn coming that grows in this tropical world that was mentioned by Celso? How far are we from the Brazilian unicorns in this sector? Good morning, Marcos. Good morning, audience. I think this is the highest theme in all my administration councils. Let's say 10 in Latin America, mainly in Brazil. How the crisis impacting, what can we do? So what is important point to highlight is we prepare, along with Embrapa, I study about the agri-tech environment called agri-tech radar. It maps not only the quantity, but the sectors, the dynamics of this sector in Brazil. So Brazil has the most the bolder and decentralized agri-tech movement of the world, bigger than Israel in terms of quantity. So we have been facing clashes from March 2020 to the pandemic, and realize how this ecosystem is behaving and responding to this clash. From March 2020 until last month, we have gotten a creation of one agri-tech a day, if not more. It was is a speeding up drive. If you think about talking about with the big players, what we have realized is that the key word of this agri-tech movement, Brazilian agri-tech movement, is resilience. The entrepreneurship have been strengthened by this crisis. Once that said, we talk about the net crisis that what happened in 2000 and what we're seeing nowadays, when you see the decline and depressions of the prices of NASDAQ and the reduction of fast reduction of finance rounds, we see mass emissions in many unicorns, not only Brazil but abroad as well. It contaminates the general funding. Investor is the one that if you hurt yourself here, you take your foot out of there. And I include myself in this analysis. What Dr. Cecil has mentioned, that this crisis, when you compare with March 2020, it brings the favor wind of the adoption of tech in the field. The assets are becoming expensive. So we need digital technologies, the supply chain technology as well, better price credit. These technologies are more important at this moment, among others, and it starts to have integration. So beyond the substitutes, Brazil is constructing the biomaterials more that are growing faster in the planet. They got private equity, venture capital, or missions in the stock markets as well. We are in a very promising moment, but there is you have to split those the crisis of net balances. But agri-techs are not like unicorns, but they're more like camels due to their resilience. And what is the proximity to have a company of $1 billion that is a unicorn traditional definition? The reason that we don't have the agricultural unicorn here facing all the agri-techs is because it's a little bit behind the urban center in terms of infrastructure, technological infrastructure, the digital literacy, and to develop this solution in agro, it requires more science along with IT. So those the fintechs and e-commerces and marketplaces and the main tools of digital solutions to bring them within the farm, we see that they have hundreds of millions of investments. They are multiplicating from one round of order of investment, and the curve of top line rentability quite bold. So for me, it's a matter of time. I would say in 3 years, we will have some unicorns in this chain, Marcos. Perfect, Chico. I like it a lot, the camel analogy that you have done. I think that's it. We have to be resilient. The scenario is quite challenging. We have a tropical technology that is bold, is going on. The bio inputs that you said, even bigger than the other countries. I can see in the university huge interest to come to this, not only in INSPER, but in many other universities, to come to agribusiness field. So let's talk about with the two biggest, companies of porks and poultry. So there is a vertical. We're talking about. You have a lot of. There's a lot of insertion in this market of small producers towards exportation. So I would like to know, João, how the use of technology and the vertical integration system of the industry make Brazil one of the global leaders of the exportation of poultry and pork meat. So we are in the first places of this exportation. And we had a very important role after the pest that China has suffered in the pork meat. So it's quite connected to this efficiency of our system. How do you see technology and the system in the role that Brazil has today, and how Brazil can reduce the security of food issue in the world today? Talking about especially about animal protein is quite challenging. How do you see Brazil contributing this protein deficit in the world? Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. How we has always said, our role in Seara and AGRIBUSINESS is to supply the whole world with what is best in food. So in this sense, Seara has a global leader of pork and poultry protein. We have the technology has a fundamental point in this because it has 10,000 integrated suppliers and small partners that are spread in more than 10,000 operations, and technology is crucial to integrate them and to help them to be more efficient, to have a better impact in the animal living. And we have the Super Agrotech platform that integrates all the chain and brings a visibility to our integrated partner what is happening and what they have to do. So I think much of the technology that is happening today, how to disseminate knowledge, how to disseminate capacitation at the end to this group of small producers to work each time more efficiently, more sustainable, and in a way that protects the quality of the food. So it's our big differentiation here has Brazil and has an exporter. When you see the role of technology beyond the dissemination that we can get of the best practices, it has an important role of the familiar succession. One of the biggest challenges, how we help these small farms in their familiar successions in their operations. So we can see with the technology and dissemination, it's easier to the newbies to get into the business, not only in succession, but also in the familiar succession, we can start to see the female leadership. And one of the biggest integrators we have today is led by Marta. So you see that technology makes favorable the agribusiness as a whole. We have a whole integration with a system that follow all the sectors. They can compare themselves with the other ones and what they have to do. We are implementing a big intelligence data where you can monitor all the elements, temperature, humidity, how the birds are behaving and what we can do to improve their well-living. And it's easier that everyone's management. I have no doubt that what have brought us here is our ability to disseminate not only the 4.0 industry, as well the field, the digitalization. So we are always looking for alternative energy sources and to optimize all the farm has a productive nucleus shared. So we have a commitment until 2040 that it goes through the agribusiness, and through the agribusiness, to integrate that, we are going to keep leading the technology agenda, not only at home, but mainly also within our integrated. So it's a differentiation aspect that makes us more efficient, sustainable, and to bring the familiar succession and to bring the continuity of the farm, of the field, working along with us. So I think it's a little bit of all of it. I would like to thank Embrapa as a partner. We have a big partnership. Many of our activities in development comes in a partnership with Embrapa. And it's quite nice to hear, to listen to Celso talking about the opportunities that we really enjoy this partnership. Thank you very much. Thank you, João. I think the integration producer and the agro industry, and it is very efficient here in Brazil. I was in Asia, see how they do, and I think they're doing great. So this issue of technology to be managed in conjunction by the industry and the producers, the animal nutrition, the animal health and technical support to thousands of producers are done in an integration where producer and industry, is a win-win game. So it generates win of productivity that makes the poultry being one of the most consumed meats in the market. So, but to do that, we must have soy and corn. Soy and corn are products that have been impacted by the pandemic and war conjunctions. We know that Russia and Ukraine represents 30% of wheat exporting, and a big number also in corn exporting. It affects the soy market, and we need soy and corn to produce poultry and pork. So, Dorival, what is the relationship between grains and animal protein? Clearly, China, among other Asian countries, they have a preference to buy raw material as soy and corn to do themselves their own animal food with taxes of conversion that are worse than ours. So our soy travels from the middle of the country up to Asia. Of course, we'd like to sell it for a better price. We'd like to amplify the additional value of the exporting. It's a challenge of agro, not only be there, but to also add value to the additional products of these grains. So, Dorival, I would like to ask, what can we do to amplify the additional value of meat has BRF has an opportunity? Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Marcos. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Apex to do this investment forum. Once again, I think it's important, extremely important to the country, to Brazil. And it's something that gives us the opportunity to show the relevance and importance to open the the foreign market doors to us. So taking advantage of our question, I think is we don't have, we're talking about addition here. It's not to diminish or to extinguish something. It's always what we can add to understand the scenario that we're living in. It's a scenario where everyone in the population is growing. We are going to reach 10 billion of people very soon. It needed to be fed. So it's going to need to be, and each country has their responsibility about food security. And there's no country that wants to take this risk. So I think it's important here, and I acknowledge and congratulate Almirante Rocha's work in these business visits along many countries.
But opening again our doors to be able to export even more. And how we do that? Brazil has today the technology, the productiveness. We have Embrapa today that is a reference, national pride that we need to talk more about Embrapa and be proud of Embrapa. We're shy to talk the number of things that Embrapa can do and everything that Brazil could do, and to have the responsibility to feed the world. We can't be shy in talking about this. It's up to us to talk about it and open doors of different markets and show responsibility and consistency and continuity in this relationship. And when we see the other, they don't want to see the other side of this, that they flood the other country's market. We want a long-lasting relationship, responsible one of continuity, and that will ensure food security of that country. And so, Marcos, this benefits us, because then they want to buy our poultry, our swine, our cattle meat, because they know we're not gonna block them, because today we need their corn to serve their meat. So we want to sit with them, and we need to have the responsibility in this relationship. And with this, we can be the protagonists of the export on both sides. We'll remain relevant, and we will remain the largest exporter in the world, and we will increase even more our exports. Because of BRF, we reach more than 120 countries. We reach everywhere in the world, and this opportunity is only possible because we have the technology, the productiveness, the production, a sustainable one, adequate production, and we call for the responsibility on ESG of all the companies. We already have that. So what we need now is to take ownership of this protagonism, and events like this one, and events in other countries, to visit these countries and expose Embrapa, how they contribute to the market, and all this helps bring in a lot of benefits to the country. And always mentioning that this is an industry, a sector in our side of hard-working workforce. So we generate lots of jobs throughout Brazil. Today we have more than 100,000 employees spread out Brazil. The more we can export, it's better for the country. It generates more income to states, and so we need to be proud of this agenda, to put it forward and capture all this. This is very interesting, Lorival. Back in the 1970s, upstate Santa Catarina, these companies started as small producers, developing products to the local market. And today we reach 130, 150 countries in the world. For this to happen, it needs a lot of coordination, a lot of investment, and today's all over the world. I wanted to ask to Celso and Chico, so in terms of technology outside Brazil, you had an experience in Africa, but it didn't prosper. Africa is a tropical region, similar to Brazil, but they're far away from what we're doing. And in Asia, we have very little presence. What do we need to do to have more presence outside in investments in technology, close to our clients throughout Asia? Everyone wanted Embrapa in to help in developing technology. How do you see these partnerships all over the world? What needs to be done in terms of public policies here to allow this to happen? You've mentioned matters of law. What do we need to do? You can also interact in this. Thank you, Marcos. Also thank everyone who spoke before my speech. It helps reinforcing the partnership. Francisco, Lorival, and this highlights the partnership we have with them. Embrapa is very aware of the importance we give to food security. In Egypt, for example, they import 2/3 of the wheat they consume. We participate in high-level meetings, and they have almost a panic of what's going on at this moment. And we mentioned that we developed the tropical wheat, and we import wheat. We have a demand of 12.5 million tons, and we've produced 8 million tons, but we exported already 3 million because the prices were good. And when we put out there to Egypt and have this partnership for tropical wheat, they accessed Embrapa, but of course our role is not to produce seeds and pack it and sell, but to offer technology to private sectors. So we directed them to the private sector that will be testing it. In terms of food security, this was aggravated in these 3 C's that I mentioned: COVID, climate, and conflict. So these 3 C's are contributing for today's scenario. And I agree with Lorival and Francisco, is that Brazil will feed the world. This is not just a speech out there. It's we have still 90 million degraded pasture that could be used for a crop. We have the technology, we have integrated systems, connection, agriculture and forest to convert only in terms of incorporation of already consolidated areas, we could increase 50%. And then agri-tax, Francisco mentioned very wisely that not only digital-based businesses in terms of bovine, we have bio raw material. We're almost reaching, Marcos, just a quick number. It's almost a unicorn. Bio raw material. They have they use one of our projects to build a business out of it. They're reaching almost 10 million hectares with this solution, some 13 to 14% of the grain area in Brazil, with a business that was small, invested in this technology, and today they are in this position. And to wrap up, our interaction with the African continent, it's more humanitarian rather than making business. It's important to be used as a cooperation tool. We partnered with them in providing humanitarian support. The African Horn is facing the worst drought ever at this moment. In north of Africa, Israel, UAE, and other Gulf countries, we have partnered with them, and you can see that the technology generated here, again in bio raw material, opens new fronts. And we're purchasing opportunities in the tropical belt. Talking about the success of public policies, you mentioned that does public policy helps or it doesn't? It could do both, but in agribusiness, we see that the public policies help. We came in a moment where the private sector did not yet invested in it. We had our first investment from BNDES part. We don't invest in agro-techs, but we solve local businesses in tropical economy for Brazilian issues, but to build an export platform to Sub-Saharan Africa, Southern Asia, and to build scale here for a very specific market that is the tropical agriculture. And agro, in a sense, we can mention many companies in our portfolio who transfer from the technological developments. We have 2 companies today that use technological in edge technology to humidify carbon in soil with technologies developed at Embrapa. And what they found out is that the speed of innovation today, where we have a bottleneck of Internet of Things, crypto, and the speed of technology in general is quite fast. And these startups are maybe the best vehicle to deliver to the society these innovations in the business model.
So I think it's important to advance the public policies that have been done where Embrapa is a case of success, and FATESP also in São Paulo, funding and working where the moment of the private capital doesn't have expertise and risk profile to funding that technological scientific funding. So I would like to hand over to João and Dorival so you can comment some teams that are quite present in technology of animal protein nowadays. We're talking about veggie meat and the companies that or lab meet. But it's a very important theme, and I believe your company have been investing in this new novelty. It won't replace, of course, animal protein, but it's a growing trend. How do you see that? And another question is the ESG. How do you incorporate ESG in the whole chain? And the well-living of the animals, that's a strong agent that is being called, and trackability of products. So please feel free. Only that? It's only that you want us to talk? Yeah, no, yeah, just interact and please share. I know it's themed for 2 hours or more, but let's try to be brief. I think, again, here is the E theme. There is no space, there is no choice to the companies and to the world, the responsibility that we have to ESG. It's not a matter of if or when. It's a demand that we have to meet, and our responsibility with the planet, with inclusion, with the governance, integrity. I think it's a process given that we have to work on it, and it's more important each time. Another aspect that you have said that there are alternative proteins, and we have a range of them. And in agreement with you, I think in some years, a few years ago, that was a veggie fever. The whole world was thinking in coming veggie. But then again, you see that it operates in cycles. The market stabilizes itself. It will have, of course, its space. Today in Brazil, this market is not growing anymore. You see a huge quantity of companies that are in the market, and but there is no volume, and it's quite small and not sustainable. So but it will have its space for sure. There will be a space for veggie. There will be the space for new technologies that have been worked as a cells cultivation. We have done a partnership with an Israeli company. I was commenting back there about that. And today, it's not ready yet, but it will happen by the demand, by the theme of ESG, to be more efficient. So we have to follow this technology. We have to keep on following these technologies. For example, this cell cultivation, there will be an efficiency of space and consumption of water and gas emission, a series of things. Despite the productivity that today we have to take an animal as a whole and you have to dismantle it and to allocate it. In the future, we're going to produce exactly what is needed, what will be consumed. So I have no doubt that it's going to happen. When? If it's in 5, 10, 20 years, I can't tell you, but it will happen. And that's why the importance to follow and have Embrapa following that too, because we will have to adaptate the regulation of it. Because today, for instance, this cell cultivation doesn't have any regulation in any country of the world. They are starting to do so in Singapore, but it's captation that has to open in from all sides. You have to open the regulation, a series of processes to do it, to bring this technology. So the ESG and animal well-living and trackability, it's the basic, the necessary that we have to do. It doesn't mean differentiation anymore. Or you have it or you are out of the market. I think you have pinpointed very well the alternatives, and you see the emissions balance and the trackability of products are demands that the companies will not survive with if they don't take it seriously. And I see that everybody is concerned with that. Not only the small proteins of poultry and pork, but also cattle. Also in beef. So, João, what's your comments? We come back to the initial challenging and the opportunity. We have the mission to feed the world with what is best available. So when you think about that, we must be prepared to this oncoming demand. And it is a multiple demand. We're talking about pork, beef, poultry. There is a demand for vegetal demand, but also fisheries. There is a fisheries demand in Australia, as you can see. But these proteins are important. We're talking about 10 billion of people. So the demand is growing, of course. So it's crucial that the companies and Brazil keep on going in the cutting edge of the production and leading production of these proteins. Some are developing and also have in the north of Spain the lab meat research. We are opening in Florianopolis New Technologies Development Center. So here is crucial to keep up with the global leadership that we have, delivering proteins and food in a sustainable way, competitive and diversified. Consumer today is going for options, and we have to be prepared to deliver them all. So I see has the future opportunity is huge. The demand is huge, and we have to be prepared to be delivered to meet these demands in a sustainable and efficient way, taking care of all the demands that might rise. So in this sense, technology has a crucial role. It's impossible to do all of it without technology. We're talking about challenges here that are not small, and we have the opportunity to grow with all this demand and offer within this ESG commitment and the net zero until 2040. And we want agribusiness is to do so, and livestock will do that too with a lot of technology. So we need to go for this efficiency, to leverage partnerships, to bring sustainable solutions in long term. I'm proud to be here in the front of this industry, of this such a fundamental one as the food industry. It has impact to Brazil, into the world, in a big impact to all of us. So I believe that the challenges to supply the volume and quality of the proteins existence and the new ones, it's crucial. We have to do that efficiently with quality, security. Brazil has a fantastic job doing that, but we have to be quite always aware to the sanitation, animal sanitation, and to the barriers existent, and to keep on developing something that is, I think, is quite unique. How we do that along with the local agriculture. So we have 10,000 integrated, and Lorival has commented. So we're talking about 20,000 families that work all together. And we needed the support and the support of resources to these entrepreneurs that move the Brazilian and the world economy. Well, thank you, João. Just reminding that GBS, that Seara is part in the part of beef, but also for fish, that Brazil has immense potential not quite explored. In vegetable as well, we have a big industry in Netherlands, Europe, and United States and Brazil. I think it's interesting how our companies started to get internalized, like GBS in the Middle East. Now we are a global player in proteins. So I would like to close here with a brief sentence for those who are watching us abroad. Many people that are watching us in English. And what is your message for this overseas public? Brazil ahead in the tropical technology. What is the synthesis that you can give them? So I would say that it's possible to produce and preserve the Brazilian agribusiness. That is the most innovative sector that is giving class to the whole world, is delivering a class to the whole world how to advance is decarbonizing without the climate change issues. Brazilian agro is part of the solution and not part of the problems of the climate change. Last year we were there in Copenhagen to show that we have decarbonized the livestock in Brazilian agriculture since 30 years ago, and it will be even clearer in COP26. So research, innovation, and private sector is the key. The Brazilian agribusiness feeds 800 million people. So while big global players collapsed or breaking the supply chain due to the COVID or the war, Brazil has shown it has a reliable partner that you can produce and deliver food to entrepreneurship, technological innovation, and environmental sustainability. These are facts in our agribusiness. As I said, the global demand will keep on growing. The agribusiness has a crucial role, Brazilian, to deliver it in efficiency, quality, and sustainability, and also technology is how we're going to leverage this business in the future. I agree. I could not agree more with Francisco. The word is protagonism. Those who are watching us overseas trust in Brazil, trust our products, and trust our agribusiness, our quality, our sustainability, and the continuity of our supply services. So you can rely on us, and Brazil is here to support, to help, and to feed the world. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you to the organization.
We thank the panelists, and following, we will have a special discussion around a topic of high strategic value, the outlook for Brazilian investments and image. In a minute.
Eu sou a usina hidrelétrica de Itaipu. Sou fruto da união de dois povos. E esse encontro poderoso gerou tanta energia que sou capaz de impulsionar boa parte do Brasil e quase todo o Paraguai. Eu ilumino, transformo, integro desenvolvimento e respeito ao meio ambiente, na proteção das matas ciliares, dos rios e das nascentes, na criação de refúgios biológicos e no cuidado com o futuro. Até hoje, sou a usina que mais produziu energia limpa e renovável no planeta. E capturo uma imensa quantidade de CO2 da atmosfera, preservando a mata nativa e a biodiversidade com toda a força que eu puder gerar. Eu sou Itaipu binacional. Sou mais do que energia, sou desenvolvimento sustentável.
Quanto mais a Petrobras reduz as emissões de carbono,
mais a natureza se multiplica.
Quanto mais os nossos supercomputadores acertam,
mais microcomputadores escolas como a minha ganham.
E quanto mais longe a Petrobras vai,
mais ela ajuda aqui em casa.
Peraí, que a Petrobras faz mais, muito mais. Pode continuar o comercial.
Quanto mais a gente evolui os produtos aqui da Petrobras,
mais inovação a minha turma gera.
Quanto mais para o futuro a Petrobras olha,
mais a gente cuida do presente.
Hoje é assim. Quanto mais resultados para a Petrobras, mais benefícios para os brasileiros. Petrobras, energia que transforma nossa sociedade.